Hello and welcome everyone. This is Evelyne Brink here, and I am sitting here today with the absolute wonderful Perri Chase. And I'm super excited, Perri, to have you on this call because Perri is an amazing woman who's just had a baby 7 weeks ago. And 9 weeks ago. Oh, well, there. She just had a baby 9 weeks ago and is a working mama who is a phenomenal executive coach with a background that has my ears wobble, which is why I had to put the headphones on so they don't fall off. So some of the many amazing things she's done was being a headhunter. And she made 7 figures as a headhunter, which is kind of amazing to hear. And she closed over $50 million of compensation for her clients. She's had her own startup companies and fell into coaching. Well, I'm not going to say by mistake because it's certainly not a mistake, but it wasn't a chosen career path for you, was it, Perri?
No, I think
it chose you, which is, again, I think just very exciting. And what we want to talk about is authentic sales, raw authentic sales, and relation-based sales. And I think we're talking to a super expert, a woman who's actually doing that, has done that in different careers, is taking that into her coaching. And I'm just super thrilled to have you. Welcome.
Well, thank you for reaching out and asking to do this. I'm honored that you wanted to do this call. And thank you for that introduction. It was like a little overwhelming. Like I'm feeling shy.
That's funny. I'm feeling shy.
Yeah, thank you. That was a beautiful introduction. I appreciate it.
Cool. You're very welcome. And again, thank you for being on the call. So this is exciting. And we're going to hold this as a conversation, a powerful conversation, as we want to make sure that everyone who is watching this really gets a ton of value out of it. And given that we're probably broadcasting this to coaches, we want to talk about the coaching aspect and how you make your business work and how you found this raw, authentic sales. And like you told me before, you're not doing sales and marketing the way that people usually do it. You found your own way that's kind of a little bit the other way around. And of course, that sits really well with the prosperous coach approach, which is how you found rich. So I want to hear all about these things.
Okay.
Can we?
Where should we start?
Yeah, I was going to say, can we start with what do you mean when you say raw, authentic sales? Like, what is a raw? Because I'm thinking raw vegan sale. It doesn't hurt any animals. You're not cooking the sale. Like, it's nonsense.
Yeah.
So what is it to you, a raw, authentic sale?
So let's break it down into like raw and authentic first. To me, they're kind of like the old sales model in my mind is one of manipulation, right? It's one of influence. It's one of if you read some of the old sales books, it's kind of all about manipulating the person who's buying, right? And for me, and this goes back to like my time doing recruiting and where that comes from. When you're selling a product, like let's say I want to sell you this box, right? And my goal is to sell you this box. And then once you buy this box, you've bought this box and I move on. When you're selling a product like that, it's my only goal is to have you buy this box. I don't care about our relationship after you buy this box necessarily. And the world is actually moving much more and more towards relationship, right? Certainly for recruitment, when I was working as an executive recruiter, a lot of the measurement of my success was not only that a candidate took a role and that they left the company that they were currently working at, but it was how long did they stay with that company and how well did they do there. And so when that becomes a measurement of success, just selling the box isn't enough. Getting them to say yes to take an offer isn't enough. We need to make sure that it's a fit and that it's going to be productive and right. And I think selling coaching is very similar, right? If we're entering into ship, right? It's selling, but if there's any manipulation in the sale whatsoever, they're going to figure out what's behind the curtain pretty quickly, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a good example, but let me put it this way. So I have a theory about rejection, which is that if you are fully yourself, that anyone who sticks is kind of meant to be, and anyone who doesn't isn't. It's like God's filter, I call it. And if you don't believe in God, that's okay. Call it the universe, or whatever. But your natural authenticity and your personal unique brand. Like, I'm a pretty polarizing person, actually. I'm like, there are plenty of people that really don't like me or find me super annoying, or whatever. I don't know what it is, but there are plenty of people that don't like me. But then there are people that are really attracted to me and what I do, and I'm fine with that. My mistake for a long time was actually spending way too much time on people who didn't like me and trying to fix it, and like, what do I need to do to please everyone, and do I need to tone myself down and all of that. And really the idea behind like raw, authentic sales is like, this is me. And if you don't like it, you totally don't need to buy. And that's okay.
Okay.
Right?
So we just saw two different things, if I can like recap.
Yeah.
So
sure.
One is the old model versus the new model. So the old kind of manipulative sales model, I sell to you and then I piss off, versus service-based model, really. I'm here to serve and we're doing this together. And if it's a good fit, hey, then let's see how we can go on. And then you mentioned this really cool thing that I had a very similar insight about a few years ago, which I call the Marmite insight. It's like, well, Evelyne, you're trying so hard to be everything to everyone. What if instead of deciding where you should be, you just became so unashamedly Evelyne?
Yes.
That some people are just going to throw up in the corner when they think of your name. And other people are just going to love you till the end of your days and follow you wherever you are. Because that's kind of what tends to happen, right? I too, for whatever reason, polarized. Some people just don't like me and other people just absolutely love me. And if people go, Evelyne, who is that? I'm like, no, you haven't met me. So it's, right? That's what you're experiencing as well.
Totally. So, I also find that the people that really can't stand me stay around, which is just really funny because I think they drive themselves crazy in my presence.
I do know the feeling of wanting to fix that and wanting to appeal to them. There's a lot of insecurity that can come up in me as well, and goes, oh, please like me, please. If you don't like me, it means something bad about me, and I should probably be different, because what if there's more of you people who don't like me and only very few people who like me, then I might be really lonely and unsuccessful, and all I want to be is love. So
totally. Well, Byron Katie's work, and I haven't really studied Byron Katie too much, but her work on that is like absolutely saved me. And the one thing that I remember is what other people think of you is not your business. It's their business. And what someone thinks about you says more about them than it does about you.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't read your own PR. I mean, there are a million kind of ways to say this in the same way, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people spend a lot of energy, if we talk about energy management, right, and how productive you can be as a business person. I got really productive when I stopped caring about the people who weren't going to work with me.
Wow.
Anyway.
That is amazing. And
right?
do you know about the tip of not reading your own PR, which is such a good, wise advice? It's really hard not to. And I remember watching a video with Madonna, and I don't know if we've talked about this piece, but I used to be known as UK's and Europe's leading Madonna impersonator. So I've studied the Queen of Pop a lot.
Oh my, that's a whole other rabbit hole.
Google it, you'll see some fun stuff. So I like to study things about Madonna, and what fascinated me was that interview in which she said, she was sitting there, her eyes kind of slightly going down like this, and go, I do read my own PR. I know they say you shouldn't, but I read it and it hurts me. It hurts my feelings. I'm human.
Yeah.
And you just look at this, but you're fucking Madonna.
But she's a human.
She's human, and it affects even her. So if things affect even Madonna, who we really see as tough-shelled and tough cookie, then God knows people have said a lot about her.
Yeah.
Then I can only imagine how it would affect you. Or I've always been afraid of bad press and bad, feedback. It's freaking me out. So I think it's really brave what you're saying.
Yeah.
And very disciplined.
I think you have to practice it in the world. I think and it's something that I've been practicing because I am a polarizing person. And I am sensitive, right? Like I think I come off as like this big, strong character, but I am a very kind of soft-hearted person, and that doesn't always come through. And so for me to put myself out there in the world in an opinionated way, like in this raw, authentic way, one of the things that I've had to do is practice being able to take those really vitriolic attacks and like not letting them get to me. And I actually wrote a post that went kind of viral this summer that Business Insider had picked up, and it was about the whole Me Too thing, but it was before the Me Too thing. It was just sort of like my take on women's responsibility and the whole how we play up our sexuality to get ahead in business and things like that, and just sort of like the other side of the conversation as it related to my experience in startups. And I went on to the Facebook page of and because the article was titled "I had sex with an investor and I'm sorry," and it was meant to be like an I'm sorry to other women because I did this, which also sends the message that to these men that it's okay and blah blah blah. So that's a whole other conversation. But so going on to read the comments, I mean, like it's the internet, so every troll's like, you're a fucking whore, you're a prostitute, blah 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 blah. And it's like, oh, that didn't bother me.
Wow.
Because I was like, it's not true. It's not true. I don't feel any truth about that. I have no shame about it. I'm totally okay with everything that I did. I know what I wrote, and basically it's a misinterpretation of of what I wrote. And it's really just a reflection of their level of the level of conversation they were capable of. And I was like, oh, I have passed some mark of being able to be authentic because I didn't feel anything when those comments came. And so to me, when I do get hit, I got way more hit by the fact that people didn't understand what I was saying. That drove me insane. And I was like, okay, so, for my practice of I'm triggered, what's in this one for me? Like, how can I, because that's it, right? You use the world as a reflector of like, where do I need to clean up and where do I have to be even more authentic? Where wasn't it clean? It's basically what I do. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes and no. So because clean is one of these words that you might understand in one way and I might understand in another. What is it? What do you mean?
Like there's nothing on top of it.
So do you mean like this is the actual thing that I meant? I'm not hiding anything.
It's like a clarity. Right. There's no hiding. There's no shame. There's no manipulation. It's just like boom.
Mm-hmm.
And the more, for me, the more that I get to that spot, the cleaner the response is, in terms of someone can say something and I'm just like, okay, you can think I'm a slut and I'm okay with that.
Wow. Like that's worth a whole course already. That would be a great skill to learn.
It's a practice. That's a life practice. But I think that's part of what this is, right? It's I don't think you can live in a raw, authentic way unless it is a practice, because vulnerability is part of that. And like vulnerability is definitely a practice.
Definitely. I hear you on that one.
Right? Especially when you're like kind of known for being like a strong, high-powered person. Like being vulnerable is actually even more scary, because like I find sometimes when I'm vulnerable, people who find me annoying or whatever, they'll take that moment and they'll just like, they just want to stick you with it.
Ouch.
Yeah, ouch.
Huh.
So it's a practice, but
yeah.
The just bringing this back to like the business thing, this is what people come to me for as a coach. Like when people, they're like, I want to be able to talk to people like that. They're like, I want to be able to do that. I want to have boundaries that allow me to do that. And that's how I I don't pursue business. Like I literally, everything is a magnet from that.
That's wow,
So
fantastic.
that's
And
raw. That's what I mean,
yeah,
raw.
that's yeah, that makes sense. And there's this level of, when you get to a certain level of, I'm going to call it a level of being, where you're so powerful and clear in yourself. Yeah, that makes sense that people want that. That definitely attracts them. Or like we say, energy attracts people, and your energy attracts them. They're like, she's just got this thing that I want. I want to work with her. So yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
it's funny because it also goes from, you know, the conversation about from force to real power, right?
ooh, yeah.
Right, because it's and if we bring this back to the sales conversation, I would say that sort of like the masculine version of sales, which is that like close the deal, like sell the box, move on, it's very forceful, right? And people that are turned off to forceful sales, I think operated more of a feminine model. And by the way, I'm not talking about gender for anybody who thinks that I'm talking about men versus women. I'm not. I'm talking about like masculine, linear, structured, goal-oriented versus feminine, which is more flow-oriented, experience-oriented, et cetera, which is, I think, much more of the sales model for coaches and relationship service, et cetera. That you like the power in that is in the being and not the doing.
Yes. So let's say you are in the being, and people like having experience of you. Where does it turn to go from, oh, I'm having a conversation with that person, to maybe inviting them or creating a coaching proposal? Like, how do you shift one to the other?
Totally. So this is where my education in the masculine actually really helps, because I do a lot of this sort of feminine attraction model, but then I have structure. So I have structure. I know what my business is. I know what my offers are. I know what I charge. I know what my boundaries are around my business. So there's nothing mysterious about that part. So it's very easy for me to move a conversation of like being accessible and giving advice. Like that's another thing. Like I actually am accessible. Anyone can message me and I will respond. Like I'm not one of those people who's just like too cool to have time for people.
Fill out an application if you want to have a
I don't do that at all. I don't make people do anything to talk to me. And actually there's a whole other piece to that, which I was thinking about yesterday. I also don't do that because I like to have control over my sales conversations. And I don't like to send anyone off anywhere, including to calendar links, to fill out applications, to anything like that. I like to just bring them in and get them in front of me and then do it. But this goes back to my structure, right? So I have it's simple, but it's a structure.
Mm.
So literally it'll go from conversation to saying, you know, I'm a coach. Would you like to have a deeper conversation about this? And it's usually off a text or a chat of some kind. Would you like to have a deeper conversation? Let's set up an introductory call where we can explore it together. And that's it. And then I put them on my schedule. I'm very anal about my schedule, and I'll tell you a little bit about that from a headhunting perspective, and where I learned that from. But then I put people on my schedule, and then we have the conversation from there. I strip it down. I take out anything that's extra.
So how do you make sure that you don't get flooded and overwhelmed with people wanting to connect to you?
I use my intuition when I'm talking to people. So in terms of like whether or not I think that it's just going to be a quick chat on Facebook and it's an of service conversation, like I'm happy to do that, even if they're not going to be a client. I have a pretty good radar of whether or not to offer someone a conversation with me from an intuition perspective as to whether they would be a client. And it works. I mean, it works.
Because then my next question would be, even if you did, like, let's say you have a lot of conversations with people, I gather you're a high-end coach, you're not going to charge $100 an hour.
No.
How do you make sure that the people you speak to are actually people that
can
and
afford
a
me.
position to invest. Yeah,
You
whether
know,
they can afford you or not, but would afford you.
you know, it's funny because I actually said this on my other video. Like, I have a really high close rate, so I have like a 90% plus close rate, and that's also because I make offers when I think that somebody is like really a yes. And my experience too is that when somebody's really a yes, money is not the issue. Like, if somebody really, really wants something, and I've seen this with, you know, other programs that I've done, if somebody really wants something, they figure it out.
You don't see that there's a
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm also
yeah.
probably, I had this conversation with Rich, I'm probably not charging enough. I'm kind of at the point where I need to charge more and get more no's. But I raise my prices often, and I'm kind of like working up to that level of like no's. But what keeps happening is as I raise my prices, different people show up in my field that can pay me. So I don't know. I have a little bit of, I go with the magic of it too. I know that's not very scientific for people who like data and process.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
You know, it's just, it's like the when I start to embody, I guess, and this again goes back to a little bit of that raw authenticity piece, is like when I start to embody the prices that I'm going to charge, those people find me that can pay me.
And when you say they find you, where do they find you?
It's interesting that you say that, because I had done a whole breakdown of my entire business last year in terms of like where everybody came from, and I don't have the presentation. Maybe I do. But let's just say that a lot of referrals, right? So a lot of, I would say getting referrals from current clients is one of my top ways. And I love that too, because they pre-qualify the leads for me from that perspective, because they paid me and they know what I do and the level of commitment required, et cetera. So they kind of pre-vet that for me. Referrals have been an amazing source of business, but in terms of cold business, it's all from Facebook. And I'm somebody who has thousands of, I haven't even started onto my LinkedIn yet. Like, when people tell me that they don't know where to find their first clients, I'm perplexed by that problem. And really, because to me, you probably have years worth of business in your first degree of relationships alone, if you know how to tap into it and mine it. And to ask for it, right? To put yourself out there in a way where, you know, people can see what you're doing, and then to ask for the conversation, right? Sometimes people are shy, you know, about what they share with their personal network. And I think that's a waste. I mean, moving to advertising, in my opinion, is like the last thing that you should be doing. Like, you should have absolutely coached every single person in your personal network and in your second degrees of connection before you buy an ad. Like, that is my opinion.
Okay.
Like, I don't know why anybody buys advertising.
So, I mean, when we're talking about Facebook, people are often exchanging in a more social way. I feel that there's to go as deep as you need to go as a coach is like a whole different ball game. So are you someone who you just catch them at that level straight away, or how do you ease yourself in? Because it's not exactly a social thing to go.
I'm not a chit-chatty person. I don't chit-chat. Like, I'm not, like, for instance, I'm not the friend that you call when you want to like bullshit about what you had for breakfast. Like, I'm the friend that you call when you're having like an existential crisis, right? So the things that I talk about and I post are like things, you know, I talk about politics, I talk about difficult social situations, I engage in a lot of conversations that are like what I consider interesting high-level conversations. My husband absolutely hates it. He's like, what are you doing? Who are you talking to now? what is this argument that you're getting? I'm like, it's not an argument. It's a deep intellectual conversation. But what I find is, it's just like present. It's like presence. It's being there. In fact, there was something where somebody who I'm working with now had friended me because she had seen me sort of engaging in a difficult conversation with people. And I took a perspective that people don't say very often. And I'm not going to get into what it was, but it was just like, I was willing to say the thing that most people would be like, oh, wow, I think that, but I don't know that I would say it out loud. And she friended me after that. And we had sort of kind of been in each other's periphery. And then she's in Silicon Valley, and she was looking for a coach, and she put it on her wall, and she probably had 50 recommendations of coaches. And I was just like, hey, let's have a chat. And
boom.
Boom.
Well, we said it in the introduction. You are amazing.
But it doesn't have to be so hard. You know what I mean? Like, I think if people are really in touch with their, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people make it complicated. I've seen some like introductory emails and things like that. Do you know, I never sell my credentials at all. Like, I don't tell people what I do or like what I did in the past or why they should work with me or anything like that ever.
What do you do for credibility building, or is that just not something that
happens in the conversation?
Yeah. Okay. So it feeds through as you're speaking.
The thing is though, and I don't know if you do this, but like, I'm not just a question asker coach. Like, I coach a lot with stories. I coach a lot with personal stories, which some coaches think is not good, but I think it's really important because I'm not a therapist. I'm actually a practitioner. So like, anything that I do with my clients is something that I do with myself, right? From the practice standpoint. Yeah. I lost my train of thought there.
Yeah. Personal stories coach. Overcomplicate things.
Yeah. I mean,
people make it too hard. Yeah.
People are not signing up for your background. They're signing up.
Oh yeah. We're talking about you're talking about your credential and credibility building. And
I believe that people are signing up because they're drawn to you, and they're signing up for what they think they can experience with you. Right. And that's not necessarily about your credentials. You could find the most credentialed person in the world that you don't have good chemistry with, and you're not going to let them coach you.
Absolutely.
I'm weird. Like, I'm actually really hard to coach because I don't let people like back there, like in, I could fog a coach all day long with all kinds of nonsense. And so, when I signed up for Rich's Mastermind, I had to kind of, I signed up for Rich's Mastermind before even talking to him, but I was like, I know he can coach me.
How did you know that?
I just been watching him for a while.
Okay. So you decided I let him in. Yeah.
I was like, is this somebody I can let in? And that's how I choose my teachers.
And that makes sense, right? I mean.
Right. So from the other side of that, are you creating the kind of container for someone where they feel like they can drop in, trust you, and like fall apart a little bit? A lot of the stuff I do, like, I take people into I always tell my clients, like, before we work together, I was like, things are going to fall apart before they get better. And, that's why I require like 6 months at least of people working with me, because I got to get them through the tranche.
Yep.
Right. Like,
so you just mentioned a really powerful word that makes a whole lot of difference in the coaching relationship, which is container.
Yeah.
So it's the container is the frame, the setup that holds the experience. What kind of container do you set for the enrollment conversation?
Meaning, ask me more specifically what you mean, because I know what you're saying, but I want to know if there's something specific.
In a different way, how would you frame a first discovery call so that people know where they're going with you or what to expect?
Yeah.
And I think this is going to feed into that as well. The question about when people are attracted to you because they're drawn into your energy, how are they guided into wanting to work with you versus wanting to be your friend?
Yeah, well, okay, that's perfect. I was going to, I'm going to say something that I'm censoring myself on. And it's like,
Cool.
I'm not that available for just new friendship.
So
Like,
that, yeah.
I am. And like, for instance, like we met and I said to you before we got on the call, I was like, oh, I want to be friends with you. And I want to like be able to share with you as like a mother and a business person and all this stuff. And, you know, so from that perspective, I don't want to tell people I'm not open to having friends. Like I am, but there is a certain, I guess when I engage in conversations, a lot of times they end up being mini coaching conversations. So I hold the framework or the position of coach from the time that people start messaging me in a lot of ways. So when someone says, I really liked what you had to say there, and can I ask your opinion or question about this? That's usually the kind of message that I get. Or can I talk to you offline about what's going on for me? And so I never go into friend position ever from there. Friend position was like when you and I messaged, it was a different conversation than I would have with someone who was going to talk to me about coaching.
So where are those specifics? Where are the key elements that go, that's this and that's that?
By the way, the reason that I don't have all the answers is because I'm figuring this out right now.
As you go, brilliant.
As we go through this, because it's perfect. Natural. It's natural. And so I'm trying to like back into
exactly. And I'm getting that about you, that the whole thing seems supernatural. And so what I'm doing is I'm picking out the things that seem very natural and just kind of drilling in that, because the people who are new to this, they won't have it as natural. And I want to go, I know sometimes listening to things, I'm like, just tell me how the fucking works.
The thing though, I really believe is that everybody has to find their own style though. So like what works for me and what my style is may not work for other people.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really, really part of the whole like raw, authentic selling piece. I think it's
step by step out of it.
I think I also there's another piece about boundaries which comes in here too. Mm-hmm. If you know anything about the victim triangle, like I've done a lot of work around the victim triangle, and I think that sometimes as coaches, and many people end up being coaches because they really like to help people, and like we aren't in the business of helping people. Like I am not here to help people, right?
And for the people who don't know about the victim triangle, so we have the victim, we have the villain, and we have the helper. Is that?
Yeah, it's a victim, persecutor, rescuer. Same thing is what you're talking about. And Lynn Forrest, who is absolutely fabulous, has a ton of reading material on that. LynnForrest.com, LYNNEFORREST.com. She has really brilliant resources on it if you're interested.
Brilliant. Thank you.
But I think I think that because I don't take the hook or the bait to like help someone. I'm happy to reflect to them, and I'm happy to offer them a conversation. And then if we're not going to work together, like that's it. I'm not just a free resource to like text forever every time you have a problem. And I think some people get caught up in that because they like the way it feels to help someone, right?
Yeah.
And so, I don't work with people who don't pay me. I don't do pro bono work. I don't sell a la carte sessions. Like all of these things are my boundaries for me. And it's what I need to run my business and to be of best service to the people that I do work for. And I think new coaches get a little lost in that spot. I've seen that. Yes. I've seen that from, other people that I have conversations with about that.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. So there's this whole idea of serving that really bleeds quickly into
rescuing,
helping, rescuing, doing all I can to make your world better. And what I'm really getting from you, Perri, is that very strong understanding and respect for the business of coaching. So within the business of coaching, you'll do your best to make sure your clients is having an amazing transformational experience, but it's not the other way around. It's not trying to transform everything, make the world a better place, and maybe make some money from it.
Well, but here's the other thing with that, and actually one of my teachers is Nicole D. Doan, and one of the things that I learned from her was that being nice is not necessarily being kind, and it was just like a really profound shift for me, which is that like doing something like it's the formula of like when you want more for your clients than they want for themselves. Like I can sit and have someone tell me, like I can do a discovery call with someone and then be like, I really want to work with you and blah, 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 but I can't find the money. And it's just like, I don't know what to tell you. Like I'm here, I'm available. These are my rates. Like I'm happy to, but it's for you to figure out. The other thing too is like, I don't, it's not just actually about money. Like someone needs to meet, they need to prove that they're going to actually do the work, because sometimes, we think we're being nice by kind of going in there and fixing, because you can do that for people, right? But they have to do it themselves. And that's the difference between being nice, like I'm going to help you, versus being kind, which is like, I'm going to watch you fall on your face until you're ready to step up and do it. Like I'm not like, I'm here. It's kind of, I gave an example. I did a video about this the other day, and I gave the example of my daughter doing tummy time. So like tummy time for me as a mother is agony, because I hate watching her struggle, right? She's on the thing and she's like, meh, meh, right? Like she's on her tummy and she's really struggling. But if I go and help her up, then she doesn't build her muscles.
Yeah.
That makes, and so I have to let her struggle in order for her to grow. And I think that, that's a key to coaching.
That's a really good example. And it actually brings the memory, when my son did tummy time, he had a gastrostomy that's with a cable that sticked out of his tummy. So he had this triangular shape and then a cable that came out. And we'd ask the consultant, is he okay to lie on his stomach? Like if he starts robbing around like they do, won't that hurt him? Will it fall out? Will it just not be horrible? He said, nah, I'll be all right. I'll do it. But so I got the double whammy of watching him struggle and then worry that when he got caught onto something like cringe-worthy. And yes, you're right. I could see him do that. And I did see him do that because I could see the bigger picture of him building his strength and becoming independent.
Well, because that's the kind thing to do. The nice thing is to run in and like be like, oh, mommy's here and I'm here for you and all that stuff. And
don't worry about that. Yeah.
Right. And so it's a very fine line of like not coddling your clients. And
but as a tool, if you will, to do that, what I'm seeing us say is, if you can see the bigger picture of what that's going to do for your client or your baby, or both, then it makes it much easier. Like if I didn't know that I'm helping him by not helping him, it would really be painful. Then I would just feel cruel. But knowing that I'm doing this because this is the way to help him makes it easier. So if we could see for our clients that them struggling is honoring their journey, is helping them actually build the muscles that they were coming for us for. That didn't come to be fixed by us and then go into the world just as limp as they, no. We want to grow and we want to actually be able to be these people that we say we want to be. So this is all part of it.
Yeah. And just going back to the container, like that's part of it.
Okay. So you set them up for that? Well,
you hold space, right? And this is the difference between, and I'm going to add something in here before I go there, which is, the key to negotiation is being able to walk away. If you work into a sales conversation and you cannot walk away, you don't like, you cannot hold the same container.
Right. That's sexy stuff. That's very powerful.
Right? Yeah. And that's for anything. I mean, if somebody else is watching this and they're trying to negotiate a job, I mean, this is one of the big things that I learned from headhunting was you had to be willing to walk away.
So in that context, I would really like to ask you about rock bottom. Have you, like, because that's so much easier said than done when you're okay. I'll walk away because you know what? I don't need the job anyway. But what if you totally need it? What if you are on the street, you don't get the job? Or we're talking about coaching again. Sometimes we get into places where we freaking need the client, and all this talk about don't need the client and be prepared. You just have to kind of make this work. Have you been in a position yourself where you hit rock bottom and you got desperate, you got needy, you weren't in a powerful place in your own self?
Totally. And I think money is one of the big life, it's like, it's one of the biggest pieces of resistance where it looks really real. And it's really just, it's just energy and it's just a game, but it feels really, really, really real. And for anyone who's like, of course money is real and this is real and blah, blah, blah. We could spend an hour talking about this, but when I left my 7-figure career, I had to completely rearrange my beliefs around money in order to walk away. And I didn't know how to, I had always made so much money. At the time, like I didn't know how people lived on less than $500,000 a year. Like I just didn't even know how you would do it. I mean, that's how fucking out of it I was. Okay. Just don't like spoiled and arrogant or whatever. But I was, in a way, I was really, really living in a whole different world. And walking away, I took a few years off and kind of lived on my savings and traveled and went, diving in Thailand or whatnot. But I had to just rearrange a lot of my thoughts around value and of that kind of lifestyle. One of the things that I learned about myself and money from that time too is like I used money as a means of separation. I used it to keep people away from me. I used it as like I don't need you, right? It wasn't a means of connection. It wasn't good abundance. It was like walls. And it was a journey that I had to personally go through. So I have a different relationship with money than a lot of people. And I have said no to things when I'm desperate. Because I love the, if you settle when you feel desperate, you're basically saying to the universe, I don't trust you to take care of me. Like, I don't trust that things are gonna happen.
I could see that. Yeah.
Right? And you kind of send the message that like, I'm just going to keep settling for something less than I deserve. Right. It's kind of like when I talk to women who've been in abusive relationships and they keep choosing men that are like, they're dating down and you ask them, why are you choosing these men? And it's like the fear of being alone or of the fear of, well, the kind of guy that I want isn't going to want me anyway. So I'll just take what I can get.
Yeah.
Not so different from the way a lot of people look at their businesses with clients.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Like I can't charge that or I can't get those clients. And so.
Yeah. So when I hear that, what's going on in my little world and head is, I'm not sure I trust that the universe is taking care of me all the time, because what about this whole thing that happened with my kids, right? I have had 2 children that nearly died. And like, how is that taking care of me? Please. Thank you. And if there wasn't a health system, if there wasn't medicine, if there wasn't me being up day and night, this child wouldn't be alive. How is that looking out for me? So I can feel that there's a part of me that kind of goes defiant and goes, well, I'm not sure the universe is looking out for me. I think so. I have that.
Yeah.
And as I say that, at the same time, I know that there's also a benevolence, but I can also say, is it because what, my kids survived, but I've seen people's kids die. And it sometimes felt like Russian roulette. So can you speak to that? What if you don't have that belief anymore? What if it's been destroyed by some sort of circumstance? And I mean, do you just go back into, no, it is definitely taking care of you because it's all going to be fine? Or,
well, so so this goes back to the nice and kind thing. So I have a really deep foundational belief that like everything comes in to our lives to bring out the highest version of ourselves possible. And that it's like, it's like polishing the diamond. And so, while I would not wish the experience that you had on anyone, I think that the question is like, who did you become because of it?
Yeah.
And that's the way I look at life. Right. So that is my practice. So it's how I operate with everything.
So that's a really good keyword here again, practice. So there's a choice element in this, how we choose to see what's happening.
100%.
Right? Because the question that I just said, well, is it really taking care of me? Is right, justified, right? We totally get it. But it's a different question from, hey, wait a minute. Who did that allow me to become? Like the mofo that I am now, the powerful person that I can hold spaces that I would have not been able to hold for myself, for other people, for my kids, for my clients.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, that makes a lot of sense.
And look at what you can handle.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, ultimately, like going back to the money thing, when I was making the kind of money that I was making, I looked at freedom as like, fuck you money. Money to me was, fuck you. I have so much money. I don't need you. Like that's the path I was on for like the first, I was such a different person. I just was like, I just wanted enough money so that I didn't need anybody. No one could tell me what to do. Like where I could do whatever I wanted and go wherever I wanted, whenever I wanted. And by the way, I have that life now without the fuck you.
Wow.
And then it was, but it's also not about money. It's about choice. No, I don't need the money to have that. Like it was that, but what I was going to say is, to me, freedom now is not about, I can do whatever I want. It's that I know that I can handle whatever comes. Right.
Yeah.
And so when you think about like how much freedom was gained in going through the hardship of that, how much more do you know that you can handle?
Yeah.
You can live pretty fearlessly if you've been through a lot.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Sorry, my face just went funny because I heard my son actually going through something.
Is everything okay?
There was a carer there with him, so he'll be fine. But I just heard things happening, and so my, instincts just go, oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. So,
anyway, so yeah, we like really went on the rabbit hole. But I think, money is a spiritual practice. Abundance is a spiritual practice.
Yeah, the rabbit hole started because I asked you about rock bottom. If there was ever a time where you hit rock bottom, where you just didn't know where to turn.
Oh, I have had desperate. A lot of rock bottoms. Yeah, I've had a lot of rock bottoms, actually. I've had a whole bunch of them.
Would you be willing to share like an example? This would be great to see that other side of you.
Yeah. I ran a startup that I started, and I ran it for 4 years, and I was very attached to it for a lot of reasons, but it was sort of, it was like my vision of how to make recruiting better. And so I was doing this before I was a coach, and it was in San Francisco. And my ego was so attached to this company in that, it was something that I created. And there's also a million ways where I almost killed it, like where I kept it from growing because I was so attached to it. Like I didn't let it become its own thing. But towards the end, when it like really needed to die, I was like with it. Like I in that place for a little while, I was very frozen, I would say, in that spot. And my experience with one's ego in that place is that like when you have to go through an ego death in order to let something go, it's like you literally can't see outside the box. And so for me, my practice in that place, again, my practice in that place is that like I completely allow that part of my mind to do its thing, run its course, have its thoughts, and I don't do anything when I'm down there. Like rock bottom is a place with very little decision making happens.
So
you sit there and you wait for it to shift. It's an advanced practice.
I love it. Yeah, I'm just thinking,
pose.
It's definitely an advanced pose. If your rock bottom is financial, if I just imagine sitting there and just waiting for it to shift, I'm not quite sure how I would translate that. There's no money in the bank, but I'm just gonna.
You take it one day at a time. I think you take it one day at a time. You know, and I'll tell you one quick thing that just came to my mind is that a lot of times when people are worried about money, they're worried about the things that they owe instead of they worry about their debts as opposed to worrying about the money that they could be making. And so what happens to people in that cycle is that they're stressed about money, and then they tighten the reins, they spend less money, they get more frugal, and that tightening cycle is the thing that actually also prevents money and opportunity for coming in, because they're so focused on holding on to whatever they have that they can't. So whenever money's tight, or like whenever I have things to pay for or stuff, I don't ever focus on the outgoing. I focus on the incoming.
Ooh, that's I like
right?
it. That's daring in my world.
To me, there's no other way to do it, because if you are sitting there stressed out about money that you don't have, and it's preventing you from going out and making it, that's useless. It's useless worry, right? Sitting there worrying about the money that you don't have to pay for the things that you owe does not make you any money. It does not help. So and again, these are mindset practices.
Mm-hmm.
So I experimented with it for a year, actually, of like no planning my business out ahead. And some really interesting, strange things happened to me. In fact, there was one time where I was really this was in my first year of my coaching business, and things were really tight. I was only teaching a course. I wasn't doing private clients and things like that. And I was like, how am I going to pay rent this month? And then all of a sudden I got a phone call from an art gallery that I had called 2 years prior, and they had a buyer for one of my paintings.
Wow. I love these kind of stories so much.
At that moment when I just, so it's kind of like, don't judge the resources and where they come from either. So it's there, it's all out there. And I know this is super woo woo for people, and they're like, this doesn't help me, but you have to believe in the abundance of the whole thing, and you just focus on being of service, and you just keep doing your thing, and the money will arrive.
And so maybe this is just for me, but maybe somebody else needs to hear this again as well. But I thought what you just said was something that's not often spoken, which was so if money gets tight and you start getting tight around money and start getting more frugal and spend less, the whole tightness prevents you to make that money, because you're actually focused on holding rather than focusing on creating an abundance.
Yep.
Versus, hey, okay, so not much money has been coming in. No, we're not looking at what we're spending. We're just purely looking at what we're creating, and just trusting that it's the right thing to do.
Yes. And you don't want to be, I'm not talking about going to Las Vegas with the last money in your bank and you'd be smart about it, right? I mean, maybe, hey, if that's what you need to do, to pay rent, maybe you're a great blackjack player. But what I mean is, so one of my other teachers, he talks a lot about participation. Things aren't just going to show up at your door, and you have to participate. There's energy and there's abundance in the universe and things like that. It's like riding a wave, but you don't get to ride the wave unless you swim out to it. So
nice.
you have to participate in the whole thing. They end up not being open to receiving. They end up sitting on the beach being like, I'm trying to stay with the surfing analogy, but I'm
waiting for the boat taking me there. Well, no.
Yeah, or like, or you know, I don't have the right surfboard, or you know, I don't know, like
We'll come up
whatever.
with something.
I'm
Yeah,
screwing up the analogy, but if you just have to keep participating, and
yeah.
if your focus is on like gripping. Someone said this to me once, like, do I like if you're about to hand me something, which hand are you going to hand it to?
The open one, that one.
Right.
That's meeting. Oh, is that working?
Right. So like if you're not open, you can't receive. You can't receive.
Yeah.
In
Okay.
fact, you're not even going to see it.
Yeah. And that's a really nice test that we sometimes experience. I've had that experience, I mean, many times, but the one that really still sticks in my mind is when I used to live in Kensington in London, which was a miracle story in itself. But times got tough and I didn't know how to pay my rent. And so the thought popped in my head, well, darling, you might just have to leave Kensington. Obviously, if you can't afford Kensington, you shouldn't live in Kensington. And you know, that voice that talks to you in that sort of way. And it felt horrible. And then this insight came and said, okay, no, I insist on my dream. I will not step down from my dream. And living here was part of the dream. I insist, I'm not stepping down. And I just held my ground.
Yeah.
I held my ground until I could. And it did some strengthening in me. Is that what you're talking to as well?
Yeah. Because if you had left, then you would have like because when you start settling too, it's again, it's sending the message. You know, the example of breastfeeding just came into my mind, and for anyone who like is not like on the kid train, I am obviously. I have a 9-week-old. When you're breastfeeding, the baby is giving your body a signal of what kind of milk it needs. So if you think about that, like, and your body is going to produce exactly the milk that your baby needs. It's a feedback loop. If you are playing at a certain level, like, you're going to get that. The universe is going to bring you those opportunities. If you level up and you commit to that level, the stuff will come in at that level. It's like just raising the whole vibration. And I know the breastfeeding.
I'm just thinking of the universe sucking at my nipple right now, or the other way around.
But that's just it, right? So if it's like, oh, I'm settling and I'm gonna move out of Kensington, you know, you're kind of sending the message of like, okay, well, I'll just take what I can get in order to like pay for this thing that I'm settling for.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna get exactly what you need.
Ooh, powerful words there. Now, I know I want to slowly wrap this conversation up, but I still have this very strong desire to ask you about how you found Rich and how you found the Prosperous Coach community and how you ended up working with Rich Litvin in the mastermind. And what is it about the man that really gets you? Because obviously I'm very fond of Rich.
Yeah,
so
well,
I'm super curious.
I'm still getting to know him, but I think that there were a couple of things. Somebody who's a really good friend of mine who I was coaching was really excited about the book. And she said, will you please read this to me? Because this is how I'm trying to build my business. Not to me, will you just please read this? She's like, will you please read this so that you can coach me according to like what I'm trying to do here? And I was like, sure. I'm like going to read a sales book. Like, you know, I like didn't really feel like I needed it, but it was a great reminder because I had been running around trying to do all this funnel marketing and learning ads and all this stuff. And I literally added 6 figures to my business as soon as I read that book.
Wow.
It for me, it was more of a reminder of, again, like who I am. You know, a lot of what Rich talks about is natural for me, but it was a reminder of like, yeah, this is the way, this is how to do it. You don't need all this extra nonsense. It's very simple, actually. And we also know a lot of people, like the coaching world that I come from, One Taste, you know, there's a lot of overlap and people know him, and there are a lot of people who've gone and worked on with him from there. And so I know a lot of people in that overlap between us. And then I just been getting his emails for a couple of years. And I finally like had an awesome conversation with Mark Silverman, and
isn't he great?
Oh my God, I love him.
I love him too.
Yeah. So, and I'm living in Phoenix. This is the first time in my life I'm not living in like a top 5 world city. And it's a little bit of a challenge on me from the perspective I moved here like to do family, to do like my husband doesn't work and he's like home and he's actually hanging out with my baby right now so that I can do this.
I've heard such good stories about your husband already. It's like, wow. It's another conversation, but yeah.
It's incredible. And like, but you know, like I said, we designed our life this way and I need to stay connected to like a bigger vision. And I felt like signing up for something big for me was what I needed to do right now. And I think the biggest thing is you can really tell what someone's like by the people that they surround themselves with. And I've always been impressed with like the people that he attracts. So when you attract those kind of people, it's saying something.
It is saying something. I mean, it's exquisite. The community is exquisite and the people in it.
And already, like, you know, I have only been interacting on the Facebook group with people. I'm really excited. I'm going to the intensive in April and, you know, I'm excited to meet people. So it's,
So what are you hoping, well, that sounds a bit, what are you hoping to get out of the relationship with Rich? Or what?
I have no idea. Like, I think that's it. Like, I know that I need to level my stuff up. I think I could get very comfortable in my house, working out of my house, living in Phoenix. You know, I don't, you don't need to do a whole lot to live well here, if that makes sense. And then there are other things that I want to do that I need to, like, I really want to write a book. I probably have like 2 or 3 that just really in there. And, you know, they're just things that I want to anchor myself into a bigger community. And by the way, like, I think that all coaches should have a coach. I think it's necessary. We all need to be working on ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I also like to leave things open. I am not a very highly goal-oriented person.
I like that. It's interesting to me that almost the more up level people are in the community, the more they tend to be attracted to the beingness rather than the, okay, well, what I want to do is going to get my practice from here to there. So the goals almost become more vague, but so less palpable, but you kind of feel, you just know, I need to work with him. I just need to be around these people. I want to be, there's a real, there's a real magic around that.
It's the question of, again, like going back to the thing that I was saying to you about your experiences. It's like, okay, well, if I sign up for this, who do I need to be to get the most out of this program? Who do I need to show up as? And, you know, in order for it to work.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And one of the things that I really value about Rich and the community is, you know, when you spoke about being vulnerable in the beginning and how people can really use that against you.
Oh, man.
And I was like, oh, can they? I get, because I'm somebody who's been perceived as a tough-skinned individual. I don't see myself like that.
You're a softie.
Say what?
But you're a softie.
I am super soft. And it's always been a struggle for me why people can't see that. Like, isn't that so obvious? But it's in this community that I've had the opportunity to be held in a way that allowed me to open and practice vulnerability, really practice it. So now it's natural. The people that know me in the community know I fall apart beautifully at all my seams. And I'm willing, I don't want to say happy to show it, but I'm definitely willing to go further and let it show. And just, I mean, the puddles I've cried, seriously, the humiliation in myself that I've faced and communicated in, like, I was in 4PC last year, and to show up and be seen in all my strength. Yes, that's what I wanted to be seen as, but actually a lot of mess and weakness. And we were sharing earlier.
Don't call it weakness.
Well, that would be a challenge, but finding out that finding out that I've been trapped in an emotional abusive relationship felt definitely like it's a vulnerable, it's got, oh my God, did that happen to me? No, not me, that can't be. I'm not a victim, and oh my God, I'm in a victim position, but I'm not. So it's definitely, it feels in the weakness spectrum. But the point I'm making here is that it's this community. It's definitely Rich's, the way that he sets things up that's allowed me to go to such a level that I can even face. Amazing containers, amazing setups, and again with the people that are in there that just allow you to go to a place that I didn't even know existed before, and it liberates things that, well,
I spent a long time at One Taste, so I've definitely had that experience. I think I'm looking for a little bit of a different experience around here. More like I feel like, how do I explain it? Like I've cleaned out my basement. Like I'm ready to build additions to my house. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Extensions.
Yeah.
Add floors. Again.
Yeah. And I know that you can have both of those experiences here. And it's like.
Yes, and it's not linear, right? It's not linear. What do you know? I thought I was just going to do that, but it took me somewhere different. It was unexpected for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I'm glad you had that experience.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm glad, but.
No, I mean of cleaning out your basement.
Yeah, feels icky, but I hear it. There's a lot of value in it. I like to use when we talk about the phoenix and the ashes, we usually look at the phoenix in her glory of the flame shining brightly. There's a lot of ashes, and there's a lot of fire, and there's a lot of burning down as well that goes with it. So unless we're able to hold all of that and experience all of that, there's none of this.
No, but so, for me, I burn daily. That's like you burn it down daily. It makes it for a lot less of a painful death.
Yeah, just practice dying, basically.
Practice dying every day. There you go. That's a good place to leave it.
That's what corpse poses in yoga, right?
Practice dying.
At the end of the day, that's what you're doing there. But it feels much easier when you're lying on a mat with your eyes closed gently. What we go through. Cool. I
can talk to you.
I could talk to you for hours, and I just want to say, I know you're going to have a fantastic time at the mastermind and at the intensive as well. It'll be so enriching for other people to meet you and for you to be in this environment and allow yourself to stretch and build.
Well, I'm also, I've been kind of eyeing like who's been coming, and I'm really excited to meet. I'm really excited to meet people.
Come back in October because I'll be there then too.
I am going to be there in October.
Perfect.
I'll
speak to you before then, and I'll see you live then. Thank you so much for joining me at this.
Thank you for reaching out and asking me to do this. It was fun.
Super fun.
Hopefully, if it was useful.
I hope that it's useful for everyone that watched it. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you for being open to my questions. I enjoyed asking them. I enjoyed listening to your answers. And I wish everyone a wonderful day out there, or a night, whatever you're doing. And I'll see you all very soon. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye, everyone.